Rich and Wibo present the Local Artist Show. Unfortunately, social media has turned into a platform for people to spread their hatred and highlight only their differences. Fortunately, however, there is one page on Facebook I discovered recently that is restoring my faith that most people do have many common interests and are able to communicate without spewing their venom. The site is called Connecticut Wonderful. With 20,000 members strong, it does a great job of highlighting all of the fun and interesting places Connecticut has to offer. What I love most about this site is that it allows the reader to post their favorite places and memories, as well as doing a fantastic job of highlighting some of the best talent Connecticut has to offer. So today we sit down with the creator of this site to talk about what inspired him to start Connecticut Wonderful, as well as some Connecticut's hidden treasures that people might not know about or have simply forgotten. So without further ado, please welcome Eric Hahn to Rich and Wibo present the Local Artist Show.
Hi, nice to meet you all. Thank you.
So glad to have you on the show. So Eric, I want to talk about, I found your site, maybe it's been about 6-7 months ago, maybe even before that. But okay, you have so many great places. I didn't meet you until recently. On February 18th, I hosted at the Warner Theater Elmwood Productions movie premiere, Bernice 2. And you introduced yourself. It was such a fun night, and those guys are great. So I love the fact that you go all over the place. You meet all these different people and highlight the like, perfect examples. Today I was looking at your site and somebody said, "Thank you for reminding me about the Carousel Museum."
Oh, that place is fantastic. What a treasure.
Yeah. So let's go back to the did you enjoy the puppet movie Bernice 2?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. I went into it kind of like not knowing what it was about, and I did enjoy it. There was a lot of heart to it. A lot of great talent when it comes to voice acting. The story was interesting, and it's kind of funny. Like the puppets were like a vehicle for me to kind of enter their world where anything could happen. And yeah, I look forward to seeing more of them. I got one of their movies, and I look forward to seeing more of them. I look forward to seeing what they do in the future too. And it's kind of neat that they are in Connecticut.
It's great. And the founder of Elmwood Productions is also our editor. His name is John Bristol. Does a great job doing this. And I got connected with that show because I did this show at the radio station WAPJ, and it was 2 weeks ago. It was actually probably 2 years ago, almost to the day now. It was right before COVID hit. It was the beginning of March. I interviewed John Bristol about he was doing the 5-year anniversary of a horror movie he did with puppets entitled Head. If you haven't seen that movie, you got to watch it.
I own it. I got it. It is fun.
Right, Aaron.
It pays homage to all of the my favorite 80s horror movies, such as Evil Dead. Like every classic horror movie, a bunch of kids go out in the woods. What can possibly go wrong? Everything. But it's funny, and as you said, with just like Bernice 2, it has a lot of heart. So I interviewed him, found out that he and I have so many similar interests in movies. And he said, "Oh, Rich, we should start our own show." And I entitled it Real Talk, REEL, about movies. Then 2 weeks later, COVID hit. He said, "Well, let's start a YouTube channel." So we started doing that show on my YouTube channel. And then he said, "Why don't you continue doing your interviews? I'll be more than happy to edit them." So John, thank you very much. I appreciate all the hard work you do with this show, and I'm able to continue it because
of John.
But yeah, he's been around for 20 years. It's a 20-year anniversary, and I'm so happy that I had a chance to host it. And as I tell everybody, whenever somebody asks me to do something, yes, I'll never say no.
You did a great job. You kept it a lot of fun. It was a nice night.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. But so you mentioned off the air that you've lived in Connecticut for a long time.
Long enough. And I kind of start with a love of mine of road trips. I'm always down to go anywhere. I like going places I've never been. I like exploring downtowns. I have a love of history, and they kind of paralleled. I actually take photos of historical objects as well. And Connecticut Wonderful happened. The idea was I was driving through Meriden, and Meriden is home to steamed cheeseburgers. And not a lot of people know that it's a thing. It's a thing in Meriden. They love their steamed cheeseburgers. And I thought, yeah, the rest of the Connecticut needs to know this. And how do I tell them? So I started Connecticut Wonderful to share things that I love that maybe people don't know, and maybe give a venue to other people to share what they love and make a community that way. So we all can find out what we should know and go visit it and support it and keep it alive. So
I love that because I mentioned in the intro, I said so many people use Facebook, Instagram, Twitter to spew their hatred, to talk about their differences. This page brings everybody together. Everybody goes on there. Nobody makes it political. Nobody makes it about themselves. Like, oh, you got to check this place out. It's great. I brought my kids there. You should check it out. And they're highlighting these local businesses like you did in Meriden. And I'm sure the businesses are very, very grateful for you because it brings a lot more business. An example for me is I was looking at your site and I saw the Bantam Cinema. I said, I always forget about that place. I'm going to take a ride down there. I took a ride down there, started talking to the owner. I looked inside, first of all, and I walked away because it was middle of the day and thinking he was there. He opens the door, God, come in, I'll give you a grand tour. We started talking, and of course, I mentioned you, and then also a mutual friend of ours, Conrad Sinkwich, who was also a former guest on the show. He goes, oh yeah, Conrad told me to get in touch with this guy. I said, get in touch with him, but also I want you on my show. So he's going to be a guest. And we were also talking about, because Wibo and I want to do a live local artist show, and all the guests we've had a lot of musicians, authors, and I was thinking of either doing it at Bantam Cinema or at the Warner, where the Elmwood Productions had theirs. So, but I like to have options just in case one falls through. And Bantam, he showed me the room. He goes, Rich, this is great. You can do it right here. So we have a couple options, and I'm hoping it's going to be sometime in the summer. And I'd love to have you cover it. And if you want to promote whatever you want to promote,
Thank you. I'll be there. Count me in.
All right. We're looking at a date right now. It's going to be hopefully sometime in July. I'm just working out the details, but you'll be the first to know. I promise you.
Great. Good.
Well, I'm the same way. You know what's funny? Because very recently, probably last week, I was on Facebook. I saw an app. It's called Here, Heare. And it's an app. You play it wherever you start driving, and it talks about the history of the town you're in.
Oh.
And I was thinking about that. I said, oh, I wish Eric had that first, because I learned so much just from going through your site, and it brings back so many memories of different things. Like, wow, I completely forgot about that. I want to go through some of the things that I've been through. I've lived in Connecticut for 53 years. So I've been here a long time myself, and there's been so many things. And I love you, like what you do. I love just taking a drive, putting on some music, and just checking out the countryside, checking out museums. When people say, oh, Rich, Connecticut is so boring, there's nothing to do.
No.
They haven't, You're
we
just
have
being lazy.
Great theater. We've got great breweries. We've got the shoreline. We have this place called the Curioporium. Have you ever been there?
No.
Okay, the Curioporium is beyond your imagination. It is, you walk in and it feels like an escape room crossed with a haunted house crossed with a Broadway show.
Love it.
You get to walk in and explore and hear the story, and it's in Hartford, and it's not too far from the Parkville Market, which is an amazing place. It's filled with at least 20 restaurants that you can go and visit, and it's also near the Hogs River Brewery. So here is this cluster of entertainment, and people have gone and they've had a night that they will remember for the rest of their lives. So it's one of the things that I like to point out that's unique to Connecticut that I think a lot of people would enjoy.
I'm going to put that in my list of things to check out.
Have you ever done the Griswold Inn on a Monday night?
The Griswold what?
There's the Griswold Inn in Essex. It's actually...
Oh, yes. I have, not in a Monday night, but I have been there before. It's a great place.
On Monday night, they sing whaling songs.
Oh, really?
It's amazing. There's at least 100 people crammed in. Most of them know the words because they go every night. And the thing about it is, you are singing whaling songs where actual sea captains did the same back in the 1700s.
You're going to hear me say this phrase a lot, but I love it. There's so many great.
I'll take you. I will take you, and it's a great night.
Yeah, but I'm going to be checking that out on Monday nights. So what's the time frame for that? Is it after 7, I hope?
Yes, it's definitely after 7.
Oh, good.
It goes to like 7 to 11, and it's an amazing night.
I did something similar to that at Mystic Seaport. They had a lantern tour, and it was back in the 1750s, 1760s, whatever time that town was incorporated. And they were in character, and you went from place to place, and they never broke character, and you got to see how they lived back then. I loved it. It was so much fun. So it sounds a little bit similar to that. We didn't exactly get into any songs and dance, but yeah, had a good time. Speaking
You would
of music,
love it. Trust me, you would love it.
Speaking of music, I'm a huge fan of music, and there's a lot of local talent out there. And
Oh,
there's
sure.
I'm going to mention one because I know that you're friends with him. RCF, Robert Fullerton.
Oh, he's great. Oh, he's great. He's a marvelous guitar player and singer, composer. He does everything. He's fantastic.
And he's also part of, as I mentioned off the air, I said it's the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. You said it's more like the 7 degrees of Conrad Sinkowitz because Robert is part of Nutmeg Junction. So is Jack Sheedy. So is Conrad. So it's like, I love Connecticut because there's so many talented people out there and we're all connected somehow. I'll go to a show and I'll see, oh, I didn't realize you did this. And then I'll go to a place, I'll see somebody from Nutmeg Junction, and which is, if people who don't know, I've talked about this show before. It's a radio show I'm a part of where we pay homage to the old radio serials like Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, War of the Worlds, but they're all original material, and it's written, produced, directed, edited, and sometimes starring Joseph Timothy Quirk, who does a fantastic job. And I think we're on at least 15, 16 stations, maybe more. We're on also in Ireland. I think it just came out. Ooh. Australia, New Zealand, all over Connecticut. So you got to check it out. It's on WAPJ locally if you're watching this in Connecticut.
I'd love to.
Yeah. But Robert C. Fullerton, he was there the other night at the Elmwood premiere as well, but he has a song in the movie. But I had him on my old show, but I want to have him on again because, as you're right, I've seen him so many times perform, and I love his originals, but I also love when he takes a song that's a cover and makes it his own. Sometimes I'll have to sit there for a second. Wait, I think I know that song. And then it hits me because he makes it his own. He's a very talented guy.
Did you ever go to the Black Bear Americana Music Festival in Goshen?
No, but I've heard of it. I've never been there though.
It's wonderful. Features lots of local Connecticut talent. People you should probably know about. I'll introduce you. Ian Campbell, Brother Other. They're a great band. El Sarah, she is amazing. Atlas Gray is ready for fame. They're just like inches away from being like a household word. And then I think we both share this, is we need to get Connecticut music out into the mainstream. It's as good or better than anything you will hear anywhere. And it's just a shame that the world doesn't know what this state has to offer when it comes to entertainment, like music. You don't think, a lot of people think like Nashville or New York or Los Angeles, but we have music here that's as equal or better to anything else anywhere else. So we just need to get it out and people need to know.
I think you just got hired as our booking agent.
No worries. I know them. They're good people. You love them.
It's funny that you mentioned that because this is basically, that's how this show got started. I have my own show called The Claw's Corner, which I still do, but I was promoting my book and I was on Wibo's show that he had a public access show. And, and he was saying, he goes, oh, I used to do this show called The Local Artist Show on WAPJ. I'd love to get back together again. I'd love to have you as a co-host. So that's how we started. And I said the same thing too. I said, there's so much local talent here that nobody knows about. I want to expose everybody to all this, not only the talent, but there's so many great places. It's almost like Connecticut Wonderful in podcast form, because there's so many great things, so many great places, and we just get on here. We have as many, and when somebody says, oh, what kind of guests do you have on there? I said, anybody that's interesting. And there's so many. We've had artists, authors, musicians, people with so many similar interests like yourself, filmmakers like John. Oh,
fantastic.
So, but speaking of music, I want to talk about this because you and I have a common interest. When we were younger on Bank Street, it originally started off as Cheapskate Records. Then he changed it to Phoenix Records.
Yes.
Professor Morano. I think everybody who's around our age, maybe even a little bit younger, will know about that place. I loved it. Every Saturday morning, I would go there. My brothers and I would take the car. We just got our license. We'd go there for about 2-3 hours. It was very similar. There was the original internet and the original social media where we'd go there, meet all these people, like, oh, you like this album, then you're going to love this band. You like this. And I found out about so much great music, but the professor is such a great guy. And he's still around, everybody. Whoever thought he was dead, he's not dead. He just had a birthday.
If I had a time machine, that was one of the places I would go back. If you don't mind me describing this for people who might not know, the Phoenix Record Store was the coolest place one of the coolest places in the world. It was this giant warehouse on the second floor with thousands of records. If every record was worth $1, they'd have $1 million there easily. And you could find anything that you could dream about. And in the middle of this was the man who ran this, was called the Professor. And everyone who walked in there kind of nodded to him in respect. It's like he knew everything. And if you wanted something, he could hook you up. He was a genius of music, which is how he got the name. And he was kind of quiet, he reserved man, a dignified man. So like we'd walk in and we just kind of like bow to him, like, please bless us, you music god. It was amazing time, and it was amazing time when music was amazing too.
That's my hometown.
I'm sorry, what?
Hometown. That's my hometown.
Oh, Waterbury's fantastic. Waterbury's got so much to it.
Yeah. Hometown.
Well, you know what? I'm not sure how much of the story you know, but I've known him for years. And when he started off and he moved to that big place across the street that you mentioned, the place caught on fire. He lost everything.
My heart's still broken over that.
He never had insurance. He lost everything.
Yeah.
Then up from the ashes, Stilson Avenue, Stilson Road in Waterbury, he opens back up. He does it for a while, but he's doing things online. So there's 2 kids that used to be customers just like me and you. We used to go there all the time, and they were friends with him for years. He goes, well, I'll sell you the place. Because I want somebody that's going to love the place like I do. He sells it to them, but they do it with a handshake because they're friends, and then they never bother to pay him. So it's just,
that's heartbreaking.
I know it's so heartbreaking because the guy, he's such a great guy. And as you said, he's so knowledgeable and he has the best sense of humor. I want to give you an example of his sense of humor. I used to go there all the time, and I became friends with him. And then there was a girl named, we used to call her Wenchy. That was her nickname. Her name was Diane. And somebody came up to me and said, I think I know you. I said, what? And it happened again. I said, what? So I walk into Phoenix Records, and now I know what they're talking about. All over the walls, the girl Diane took pictures of me moshing at a show, and they put, hey, isn't that Rich there? He's the Funkmaster Dance King. And they had a picture of me stage diving, and there was a bubble coming out of my mouth. I could send it to you. He goes, hey, this isn't the KC 101 dance party. And at the bottom, it had a picture of me going like this. I thought I was just posing for a picture. I didn't realize what she was doing. It says, ha, that straight jacket doesn't even fit. So he had it all plastered all over the walls. He had it on the new releases. So anytime you bought a new record, you would get that. I remember I was walking somewhere. I was at Toad's place. And
that's wicked.
I know you. I said, no, I'm not sure. Where do I know you from? And I was in bands at the time. So did you ever see my band? No. He goes, wait, you're the Funkmaster. I know you. So yeah, Professor, he without even realizing it, he promoted me so well, just trying to bust my balls.
That's wicked. That's a great story. That's a great story.
Yeah. But then I don't know if you went there. Down the street was Brass City Records with
of course.
Walt.
Everyone went there.
Yeah.
Walt was a little bit more reserved, a great guy, but he had very obscure taste. Like when it came to music, there was a professor could find anything and knew everything. When I went to Brass City Records, like, wow, I never heard of this band. And when you listen to it, and it's nothing that I've ever heard before. So it was great to have that contrast between the two of them.
Yeah, that was a great time to grow up. Just going back and forth in those places and hanging out, and it was just a coolness in the air. I don't know.
I know. When people say, "Oh, Rich, you're an old man," I said, "I'm glad I am," because I got to see some things and lived in a time that most people will never even know about. I love the fact that there was no such thing as the cell phones or the iPhones where it was attached to my hand all the times. I love the fact I actually got to go out and do things and meet people. And if I wanted to talk to somebody, I had to see them. I couldn't just be texting all day. So when people say, "Oh, you're so old," I said, yes. And I'm glad I am, because I got to experience things like you just mentioned with Phoenix Records.
That's it. Wise man.
Cool.
So for you, because you mentioned you go all over the place looking for different things. What are some of your favorite areas to travel through? Do you have a favorite type of area?
I like cities. I grew up in Danbury.
Okay.
I have a love affair with Middletown. I love Hartford. I can't get enough of New Haven. I like some of the small cities. Thomaston, for a small town, has a lot to offer. Torrington has heart. New Britain's coming back. I mean, the whole point of Connecticut Wonderful, for me at least, is finding things that we all should know about. And there's something everywhere. Every town has something worth knowing about. Most towns have like a theater or a brewery or this kind of neat shop or a great restaurant. You mentioned that everyone gets along in Connecticut Wonderful, and that's not always true. Sometimes we argue about pizza, and then it becomes a blood sport. Everyone's got an opinion. It's like, oh, my pizza place is better than your pizza, and you don't know what you're talking about. And I love that. Connecticut is, just has so much great food and possibly the best pizza in the world. So, yeah, it's just, I like the Connecticut Wonderful service my needs too. People tell me about things I should know about, which I just absolutely love. I like learning about a museum that I haven't been to. So yeah, I think it works for everybody. It's a community, which is why I hoped it would be. So, and
all right, well, I have a question for you. You mentioned
please.
pizza. Sally's or Pepe's?
I'm gonna have to go with Pepe's.
All right.
But I haven't been to Moderns. I haven't done the trifecta, the holy trinity of pizza.
Yeah.
So once I do Moderns, then I can hold my hat with pride. But there's so many other great places. Marizano's in Torrington is amazing. Sasso's in Torrington is good.
Yes, love Sasso's. I love the coal fire, the coal pizza.
Oh yeah. Have you
the
been to
thin crust.
Bohemian in Litchfield?
No, wait. Actually, I have. Is that by the Green?
Yes.
Yes, I have.
It's got the record albums all over the ceiling.
Yes, I have been to that one.
Yeah,
I love that place. No, the reason I brought those two up because everybody has that big dispute. Oh, those are the two best pizza places. And I had a former guest on the other show, the Claus Corner, and he works for the Jim Koplik's, whatever, Metropolitan, whatever they call it now. So his job is to pick up the artists from the hotel, bring them to the Oakdale, bring them to the Xfinity Theater, bring them to whatever venue they're playing at. So he picked up Aerosmith one time, and he goes, his biggest thing is he grew up in New Haven. He loved introducing the artist to the local pizza. So Aerosmith loved Sally's so much that one time they were in Philadelphia, the guy that does his job in Philadelphia, they flew him down, no lie, filled the plane up with 14, 15 pizzas from Sally's, went right back to Philadelphia so they can eat that. That's why I love the pizza.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't blame him. The pizza is amazing.
Oh, yeah. No, and you mentioned I love that you did that because there's so many other places out there besides those two. People just associate Connecticut, New Haven, and those two pizza places, but the ones you mentioned, Bohemian, Sasso's, and so on, I can name probably 15, 16 others if I had them written down, but I can't think of them right now. But yeah, there's a lot of great restaurants in this area.
There's a gentleman named Gorman Bouchard.
Yes.
And he did a documentary called Pizza Love Story.
It's going to be at the Bantam Cinema.
Yeah, it's really great history. And the story goes that, some of the first Italian immigrants came to New Haven. In fact, New Haven had the greatest population of Italians in the United States at the time. So truly, pizza was born in America in New Haven and perfected there. And, people say, oh, I love New York pizza, New Jersey pizza. Well, they're just imitating Connecticut pizza. Connecticut pizza was first and still the best. We have the most talented Italians and the best looking ones. So yeah, there's that. I like starting fights.
I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy. This is fun because I agree with everything you just said. It's funny because there's another connection, as I mentioned. Everybody's connected in Connecticut. Gorman Bouchard used to do movies with a friend of mine who made movies. His name was, he used to own Fun Stuff Video back in the 80s. His name was Carmine Copabianco. Great guy. They did a movie together called Psychos in Love,
which I saw.
Which also had the professor in it. So there's that connection too.
Oh my God. I love that movie. I watched it so many times on VHS. I probably wore it out. There's one video store left. And speaking of great places, Hamden Best Video Arts and Cultural Center. There's a thing where you can pay $10 a month and rent as many times you want. I do that. And I saw Cycles in Love there. I just bought it. I said, I have to buy this.
And I'm so angry because I had Carmine on my show. It was pre-pandemic. I used to do a podcast and it was on iTunes, Spotify. That deal fell through, so I lost all the interviews. Unfortunately, that was one of the interviews I lost, and he recently died from cancer after a long illness.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, he was such a great guy, such a talented filmmaker, and he had another one that had such a great sense of humor. But I know that he and Gorman worked together in several movies, and that was my favorite out of the ones that he did. But I cannot wait to see that pizza documentary, because I read about it and I saw that when I was talking to the guy from Bantam. He goes, "Oh yeah, there's this documentary coming out." I looked it up. It's going to be there, so check it out.
Fantastic, great.
Yeah, you know, it's another good place. That. Yeah, me too. You know, there's another good place. It's been around forever in Cheshire. Blackie's Hot Dogs.
Oh, yes, of course.
Good.
It's legendary.
Legendary for their famous relish, which, I mean, it's you know what I love, because people who don't know the area and they come in there, I mean, basically all they have is the relish and the ketchup and the mustard, and that's it. But that's all you need. It's the best hot dog to me around. I'll see somebody in there, give me a hot dog with the works. I'm like, yeah, see that bowl over there? That's it right there. And I'm like, what? They don't know. Yeah, I want fries and this. All you get is a hot dog and chips. But I love it like that. All you hear is 6, 8.
Have you been to Lewis Lunch?
What is that?
Lewis Lunch.
No, where's that?
Oh, well, you gotta know. Lewis Lunch is New Haven. It invented the hamburger sandwich. The hamburger sandwich was invented in New Haven. And it's a neat place. Started, I think, 18 something. Forgive me for not knowing off the top of my head. I think 1859. And it's been, a Yale establishment. It's funny because so many, powerful people went to Yale and had hamburgers there. So it's a neat place. Everyone should go there.
See, I'm going to say it again. I love it.
Yeah.
There's so many places. I have to make a list of all these things that you're.
I'll send you. I'm happy to take you.
Oh yes, we definitely have to go.
Have you been to the Owl?
Yes, that I have been to.
Okay, that's
a great place
too.
Yes, there's so many great places, as we mentioned. You know what? You should come out with a book.
Someday.
You should put everything that you have in there, and Connecticut Wonderful, and there would be a big demand for it, I think.
Oh, it'd be a big seller.
Yeah. All right. So for me, I love you talked about it a little bit. I love the history of Connecticut. I love all the different museums. There's just so much. Connecticut is it's not that old of a state compared to like some of these other countries that are like, 1200s, but I love the history. For me, one of my favorite eras to study is the Revolutionary War. So I love going to Boston and learning about that. There's so much history here. And just in Connecticut, we have the Mark Twain House. I love that. Right next door to Harriet Beecher Stowe House. That's another great place. And in New Haven, we talk a lot about New Haven so far, but you have Peabody Museum, the New Haven Museum, then New Britain, because you said that's coming back, and there's a lot of great things. Have you ever been to the New Britain Museum of American Art?
Love it.
Yeah,
absolutely love it. It's one of my happy places. I don't get there as often as I should, but I just took the kids there about a year ago or so when they had a Maurice Cendric exhibition, and it was fantastic. But you're right, we have so many great museums here. Wadsworth is a favorite of mine as well.
Yes. I love Wadsworth, and there's it's the only place. My favorite artist. I'm not a big art connoisseur, so don't blame me when I say this, but my favorite artist is Salvador Dali. It's like I just love his. No, but
he's fantastic.
Oh yeah, I've been to the Van Gogh exhibit, which was great, and that's coming to Hartford as well. I saw that in Boston. So, but I think that that's the only place I brought up Salvador Dali, because that's the only place I could find an actual painting of his in Connecticut. There might be other ones, but I know he has a museum in Florida and in Spain. I think
there's a reason for that. The Wadsworth discovered him.
Oh, all right. Let's talk about it.
Wadsworth discovered Salvador Dali before anyone else did. That's why I think they have more of his paintings than other places, because they were like one of the first ones to discover his talent and see what he was worth. It's the oldest art museum in America, I believe.
Wow. So
yeah.
Because he's originally from Spain, is that correct?
Yes, of course.
Okay, yeah. So when he came to America, how did the Wadsworth discover him?
I wish I knew, but they told me on a tour, they were showing these different paintings, and they said that the Wadsworth was influential in bringing him to America and exhibiting his art. So that's why you saw him there. They have a lot of his paintings. So
I did see it. There was a picture of him there at the museum. That I don't know if he was doing a lecture or something, but he was there, and I saw that picture of him at the Wadsworth. I didn't realize. I'm gonna have to look more deeper into that and find out, because he's my all-time favorite. And I'm sure you heard this. It was a couple years ago. There was a woman who said that she was his illegitimate daughter, and she was trying to get money. So they actually dug the body up, and they said that his mustache is still intact.
oh, fantastic.
Wow.
I don't know if it was fortunate, because I don't know if he was divorced or he cheated on his wife, whatever. He had a daughter with somebody supposedly, and and the family's like, no, you just want his money. You're not getting any of his money. So they dug him up to get some DNA and find out. And I can't remember if she actually was the daughter or not, but I remember they said his mustache is still intact the way it was.
Wow.
Curled up. Yeah. And I love the Wadsworth. Peabody is great too. I remember going there. That was a field trip. I want to say in second, third grade. All the schools used to go there. I remember it was several years ago. I called it Culture Shock Week, where every day of the week I had vacation, so I'd go to a different museum in Connecticut, and I checked them all out. And I was, as I mentioned before, when people say, "Oh, there's nothing to do in Connecticut," it's like you haven't looked out your window, because I am never bored. There's always something to do. Unfortunately, there's not enough time for me to do everything I want to do.
I feel that way about the shore. I don't know it as well as I should. But one thing that I did do, which I think everyone in Connecticut should, is go to the Coast Guard Academy.
Okay.
It is amazing. The Coast Guard Academy has a museum dedicated to the service of the Coast Guard. And it's a beautiful campus. These young people, you meet these young people, and it gives you faith in humanity, because they are the cream of the crop. And while I was there, they had this helicopter over the river, and the young cadets were jumping out of the helicopter practicing their rescue skills. Every time I've gone down to New London, I've been lucky to see a tall ship. I did see the Eagle, which is the Coast Guard ship, and it's just. And I said, "Do you mind if I take photos?" And they said, "Come aboard." Well, I was on board in 3 seconds, and I got beautiful photos. So that's something. I mean, not every state has a storied military academy. There's West Point, there's Annapolis, but we have the Coast Guard, and I'm very proud of that. And Connecticut has a wonderful history of a connection to the shore and the ocean and the sound. So that's something that we have that a lot of states don't.
What I also love about Connecticut are the trails. There's so many great hiking trails. I mean, you have the Appalachian, first of all, that's just a big one, but there's so many smaller. And I want to talk about one story that's happened to me, because years ago, I don't know how this happened. It's similar to like you. I think we just walk into something, we start talking to people, and like, hey, you want to do this? You want to be a part of this? So I went into this local business. I can't remember the name of it. And they were saying, I know what happened. They were doing a hiking tour. And so I went on the hiking tour, and I guess whoever was running it said, I really don't want to do this. Why don't you take over, Rich? I said, all right. So what I would do is I would go to different places, and I would do the hike myself, just so I see what it's like. And I don't know how many times I end up saying, let me take a walk down here. It's one of the, like a horror movie. Let me take a walk down this dark trail. What could possibly go wrong? Dun, dun, dun. I ended up being down. The one time I went to Hubbard Park, I don't know how I did this. I ended up in some guy's backyard in Southington. I had to walk the street. But there's a place in Barkhamstead called Indian Council Caves. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
No.
All right. I can't remember the story, but it's a great trail. Unfortunately, at the time, this was 2008. So it was the girl I was going out with. It was her mother, her stepfather, the dog, and I'm bringing this up for a reason. It was her cousin who was deaf. And the reason I'm bringing that up to make a point is because of her deafness, she was very, very sheltered. Her mother didn't like her to do anything. It's like, oh, come on, you got to go hiking with us. What? Nothing's going to go wrong. What could possibly go wrong? And she kept saying, I'm afraid. Like, come on. Of course, that was the day something happened. We're hiking. we go all the way up to the caves because I have a lot of hiking books, like 20 best hikes in Connecticut, 25 best hikes in New England. And that was one of the thing. And on the map, it said, go to the cave and come back the way you went. You walked up. So somebody was there like, no, just keep walking straight. And I said, it goes in a loop. Yeah, don't worry about it. It just goes in a loop. So we started at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock, we're still walking, 5 o'clock, we're still walking, 6 o'clock, we're still walking. Then people, and the girl's becoming afraid. She's like, I'm afraid. It's like, no, we're fine. And it was very similar to the Blair Witch. We're like, where are we? There's all just woods. There's no sign of life anywhere. We're walking. It was 8:30 at night. It started at 3 o'clock. She's on the ground praying. I said, I'm trying to grab her. I'm like, come on, you can't stop now. It's getting dark out. Luckily, it was in the middle of the summer, so it was still somewhat light out around 8:30. And finally, I see a trail. It says Old New Trail. I'm like, all right, let's see what's down there. Of course, it brings us to a dirt road where there's nothing there. So out of the blue, my girlfriend at the time's mother's, I said, let's try and call the cops. So we called the cops, and the DEP, the state police, and the local police came looking for us. And they call us back. Where are you? And I said, we're on the Old New Road. You must be in the other end. You have to walk about 2 miles down the other way. So we had to walk down there. But it's I love the trail, but what I ended up doing was buying this green duct tape after that, and I would just tape trees. So I'm like, all right, over here.
Smart man, Rich.
I've never, but that was probably the most I've ever gotten lost. And I came home and I looked at another book I had, and I saw what I did. If we kept on walking, we would have ended up in Massachusetts. It just kept on going and going and going, like the Energizer Bunny. But
what's your favorite hike in Connecticut?
wow, I don't know. There's so many great trails. You know what I love? I love following some of the trails that the old Leatherman used to do. I'm sure you know about him.
I've never done that. I want to.
There's the cave in Southington. There's also one in Milford, which is that cave's pretty good. But I like oh my God, now I can't remember it. But my current girlfriend, her uncle owned it. It was McLean Refuge. Her uncle or great uncle, whoever it was governor at the time. I had to look it up. She knows the story. She was telling me about this, and he donated the land. But that's a great trail too.
Oh wow! I haven't been to any of the Leatherman caves. I'm dying to go. It's such a interesting story.
Yeah, for people who don't know, it's a guy from the 1800s who we still don't know who it is. And what happened was there's a lot of theories going around, and the reason they call him the Old Leatherman because he would walk the same route through Connecticut, New York, I think I want to say Massachusetts as well. And he would come around the same time and just live in all the caves. And he was always wearing, I think, at least 15 to 20 pounds worth of leather. And one of the theories is that
Wow.
he had a French accent. So they think that he was from France. And a rumor is, but nobody really knows who he really is because they dug up his body and they said that his body was just dust. There was no DNA they could take from it. This was probably in 2010 they did this. I'll have to look it up. But one of the theories is that his wife's father owned a leather factory, and they put him in charge of one of the factories. It was a bad time economically. The place went under, and then he lost his mind and just kept walking and walking. They don't know if that's true or not, but they think that was one of the stories. But you know what I like about that story is unlike today, where kids would probably beat him up or make fun of him. They used to let school out early when they knew he was going to be walking so they could feed him, give him food, clothes. It's just I'm sure there was people that were mean to him. I did read some stories about that, so it wasn't all like that, but for the most part now people are like, get out of here, you bum, I'm going to call the cops. Back then they're like, hey, it's the Leatherman, and they would do whatever they could to because he would go like this. He wouldn't be able to speak, but he'd like, meaning I'm hungry, and they'd feed him.
Oh, cool. I need to learn more about him. He's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I've been on several lectures, but it's funny because I want to say the last lecture I was on was in 2010. So I read a book, I can't remember his name, but guy wrote a great book on the history of it. And I used to know all the facts because it was such an intriguing character. And nobody really knows a lot about him. But yeah, there's a lot of caves in the Connecticut area. So I guess if I had to pick one trail, it wouldn't be one in particular, but I just like trails that have history to it.
Nice.
What about you?
I like the trail around Burr Pond. I just find it's really pretty.
Torrington.
And you don't get lost. It's
Short
girlfriend
walk.
safe.
No, that's funny that you say that. There's times it was so nice out, and I said I want to go for a hike, but I just don't really feel like getting lost. Burt Pond, I'm just gonna walk in a circle mindlessly. Then I'm gonna do. Then after that, I did some
Done.
kayaking. But yeah, that's a great place too. I used to go kayaking there all the time. It's in Torrington, Connecticut. Check it out if you haven't checked it out already. And then you know what I like too? There's a book, his name is Joe Citro. It's called Eccentric New England or Curious New England. And it talks all about the different things in Connecticut. And let's see if you heard of some of these. Did you ever hear of the Frogs in Windham, which is the
Yes.
Yeah.
I love the Wilmanic Frog Bridge. It's kind of whimsical. For people who don't know, there's this bridge in Wilmanic, and on four corners of it are these giant frog sculptures. And for like Christmas, they'll put scarves on them or whatever, they kind of dress them up for the holidays. And I guess the story goes that during, I think it was the Revolutionary War, they thought Wilmanic was being invaded. And it turns out that the frogs were just super loud that night, and they all had a good laugh about it and became part of the town folklore. So yeah. They love frogs in Wilmanic. You can find them all over the town.
Oh yeah. And so that was one of the places I went to. With that book, what I used to do was every time I had a day off, I'd go to the next page. All right, I'm going there today. That was one of the places I went to. Another place I went to, which I want to talk about this. Have you ever heard about the Little People in Middlebury?
Yes, I haven't gone, but I've always wanted to.
I've been there before, and I just want to. There's so many different theories about it. One of the theories is that this woman went crazy. She thought she saw all these little people, so her husband, just to appease her, made all these little houses. And last time I was there, I want to say it was 1997. So I can't imagine what it was like then, because even back then, it was already decrepit, and the little houses were just little foundations. And then I heard one theory that makes to me the most sense. I mean, I like the unknown, I like the mysterious and suspenseful, but this makes a lot of sense. That used to be a part of Lake Quassapag, which is not too far from there, Middlebury. And there used to be a trolley that went through there, and they discontinued it, but they just left all the fixtures there. So all those little houses were part of Lake Quassapag. And when I bring that up to the paranormal, I have a lot of paranormal friends. They're like, "Oh, that's not true. That's not true." And I think that they don't want to believe it, but unfortunately, I think that that makes the most sense to me. I don't want to ruin it for anybody if they do believe that, but it's a great place. There's also what was that?
Have you been to Dudleytown?
I tried because I love that place. I know it's in Cornwall somewhere in that area. And it's funny because my friends and I want to talk about this next. It's funny. That was a great segue because I want to talk about the Warrens next.
That's what I'm here for.
I do a great job. I love it. So I went to my friend and I went to Cornwall. I said, "Do you know where Dudleytown is?" "No, I don't really know. I'm relatively new to the area. I've only been living here 20 years. Like nobody wanted to give us any answer. I went to these different restaurants. "No, I'm not really sure where it is." And I know people told me that you could barely see it because it's all grown over. And it was back then, it was basically a trail that went through. But let's talk about that. The history of the town, where a family, last name was Dudley, created the whole town, and they mysteriously died. And that's where the curse of the Dudleys happened and became Dudleytown.
There's kind of a different thing that's kind of the opposite of Dudleytown. It's called the Barkhamstead Lighthouse.
Oh, okay.
And it's in Barkhamstead. And if you know Barkhamstead, it's nowhere near the ocean. But what happened was a European woman married a Native American man, and they weren't welcome in Connecticut society at the time in the 1700s. So they said, "Fine, we'll go off on our own." And they started a community, and everyone who didn't, kind of like the pious lifestyle joined them. Escaped slaves, Europeans, Native Americans, and they created their own community, and it's at the People's Forest. Now, why it's called the lighthouse, the Barkhamstead Lighthouse, is they used to kind of live on top of the mountain, and they'd have a bonfire at night, and the stagecoach coming from Albany could see the bonfire in the distance, and it's how they kind of navigated. So it's a neat place. It's abandoned like Dudleyville or Dudleytown, and you can go there. It's perfectly legal, and you can walk around, see it, and read the story. It's kind of cool. And is a community kind of came together, looked after each other, and kind of lived in freedom. If you're looking for that kind of thing, so
You would
I
cost
find it
anything, Eric?
inspiring.
You would cost anything?
No, not at all. It's free.
Oh, it's free. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep. It's
That
part of
was-
the People State Forest. It's kind of between Riverton and New Hartford.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
Well,
Yep.
I
Yeah, I
I've
know.
been to
Definitely.
camping too.
Very pretty.
I've been there
Hopefully-
camping with scouts.
Oh,
I just want to say, hopefully, it's nowhere near Indian Council Caves. I want to stay away from that place in Barkhamstead. But see, you brought up a great point. Those are the kind of trails I like. The trails that have a
Oh, good.
history to it, and so I'm going to be checking that. I know where you're talking about. I didn't know the history of it, but somebody I work with said, "Rich, I know you love hiking," and she mentioned that trail, but she didn't mention the lighthouse. She probably didn't know the history of it. But as I mentioned before, we were talking about Dudleytown and the paranormal. Two of the pioneers of paranormal investigators lived in Connecticut, in Monroe, Connecticut, to be
the
exact.
Warrens.
Ed and Lorraine Warren. I want to talk about that because years ago, I want to say it was in the mid 90s, probably even earlier. I used to go to their lectures. They used to be at colleges. They would be at museums. They would just anywhere they would put their slide projection screen and talk about it. So at the time, they said, well, for $25 a piece, you have to have at least 4 people. You can see our museum, which had the real Annabelle doll and other things from Aleister Crowley. It was really interesting. So I ended up going once. It was really interesting. Then I brought another friend. Then I brought another friend. So I became friends with the Warrens. I remember Lorraine. I called her up one time. She goes, I had a feeling it was you, Rich. I said, well, how'd you know it was me? She goes, every time I get in the shower, you like to call. I said, Lorraine, people are going to talk about us. Like, she has such a great sense of humor. But I love the fact that I had a chance to see them way before the Conjuring movie came out, because now, well, they're both deceased, but it cost $200 to see pictures of they'll bring Annabelle in a case, and a lot of times they'll just show a video of the museum, so you can't even see it. And back then I paid $25 and I got the grand tour. I was there for hours, and we got a chance to hang out at the Union Cemetery, which if people who are into the paranormal, that's where the white lady lives, supposedly. And it was a lot of interesting things, because I'm, as I call myself, I'm a skeptical believer. I believe there's some things out there, and I have some things that have happened to me, but I know most of it's BS. Most of it can be explained. I'm not one of these people like, oh my God, did you hear that? Did you see that? I'm like, it's probably an owl. It's probably a coyote. I'm not thinking that everything is a ghost, but it was great to go over there and see all the different things. And it was funny because years later, 2010, that's when The Conjuring came out. Now you can't even go near that place.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
One of the neat things is every old theater in Connecticut that I've ever looked into, and a lot of old lighthouses, they're all haunted. One of the more interesting ghosts can be found at the Palace in Waterbury. As the story goes, Barnum and Bailey came to town, and Houdini was there the day before, and Houdini made a trapdoor in the stage for his show, and the show was over and they fixed it, and the trapdoor was strong. It could support a man, couldn't support an elephant, and the elephant was crossing the stage and fell through the floor and died. And so the Palace Theater in Waterbury has a ghost elephant.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
I never heard that
It's
story.
a very strange story. If you
Wow.
take the tour, they'll tell you about the ghost elephant.
Yeah, thanks.
But every theater, like, the let's see, the Warner Theater in Torrington's haunted. The Opera House in Thomaston is haunted. And a lot of the lighthouses, the one between Bridgeport and Fairfield is definitely the most haunted one, with a strange story about the first owner drowned on Christmas Day and died. But it's reported two young boys were caught in a storm and were rescued. And when they asked, who they were rescued by, they pointed at the picture, and the picture was of the first lighthouse keeper who died. So possibly these young boys were rescued by a ghost. I don't know. It's a legend. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. I did not realize that. No, do you have any stories about the Strand Theater in Seymour?
I love the Strand Theater, but I don't know about any ghosts. It's an excellent place.
Well, for people who don't know, and I got to tell you a funny story about the Strand Theater. years ago, I was it was a Grease sing along, and I went there. And it's one of those old time theaters where they have the one screen, they have the curtains. I love that theater. So I went there, and nobody was getting into it. So, and they have a stage there as well. So during, I think I want to say Grease Lightning, I said, forget this. I jumped up on stage, started dancing, got the whole crowd going. As I was walking out, a couple came up to me and they said, "Can I talk to you?" I said, "Oh boy, well, am I going to be banned from this place?" And they said, "You are really good at getting the crowd going. Would you like to host movies for us?" Yeah. So what I do is every Halloween, I host movie dressed as Beetlejuice, and then didn't do it this Christmas, but the last couple of Christmases I hosted it dressed as the Grinch, and they played the Grinch movie. So I love that place. I have so many great memories about that place. But I was always wondering, because it's such an old theater, I wonder if there has to be some kind of stories about being haunted.
My son and I have gone there for Godzilla movies.
Yes.
Oh, I like Godzilla.
It's fantastic. We had a great night there. In fact, someone dressed up like Godzilla and went, and it's like, oh, this is the best. It was the best night. He loved it too.
Hopefully you can make it next Halloween when you see Beetlejuice, like, hey, I know that guy.
I know that guy. Count on it.
A lot of people won't admit to it, but I know that guy. Yeah, no, it's definitely a great time, and the people there are great. And there's another thing that happens there. I became friends with him too. His name is Larry Dwyer. He does Connecticut Cult Classics. I'm not sure if you've ever been there, but are you a fan of horror movies?
Yes.
Okay, so he plays the old 70s, 80s, not really 90s, but all the classic horror movies. The last movie he played there was The Howling and Wolfen and Ginger Snaps. So it was just Werewolf Night. And then he played before that was did you ever hear Trauma Pictures? So independent.
Sure, of course.
Yeah. So he played a couple Tromeo and Juliet was one of them, and of course, what's his biggest one?
Toxic Avenger?
Toxic Avenger, that's it. Yeah, my mind went blank on the one movie that really made him big, but yeah, Toxic. I met him before. Lloyd Kaufman's such a great guy. I don't know if you ever had a chance to see him or listen to him speak, but I love his passion for movies, and I love the fact that he does what he's been doing for so long without anybody saying, "You can't do that." And he'll say, "I don't really care what you tell me." So he just makes the movies that he wants to make, and there's an audience for it. But that's another thing that happens at the Strand. So like you said, they show the old Godzilla movies, they show classic movies like Beetlejuice, and I also hosted the Blues Brothers. I got up and did Jailhouse Rock, Dance Around, and then also they do Connecticut Cult Classics. So check that. That's another place to put on your list of things to do for those people.
Look forward to it.
Yes.
Check it off.
So let's see, I want to talk about, the Gilson Cinema is another one. Would still stay in the cinemas for a little while. That's a great place because that's where you can actually eat, drink, have fun.
Nice place.
That's a neat town. Winstead, they have this thing called Whiting Mills, which is a giant warehouse, and it's filled with like 100 artists that work there, and they open up to the public. Tyler Green is there, and if you don't know who Tyler Green is, he does movie makeup like monsters, since we're on the theme of monsters. He can make you into a werewolf, a vampire, a space alien, and he has a studio at Whiting Mills, and you can go to learn how to make movie monster makeup, and it's kind of cool. And next to that is a museum that's kind of neat called the American Mural Project, and it's 3 stories tall, and all the art is that big. And all the art is dedicated to the dignity and the power of the American workforce. People from construction or doctors or police officers, they're all depicted there in larger than life paintings. And it's kind of amazing. And then you have the brewery, the Red Barn Brewery, I think. Yeah, and that's pretty good. So yeah, like I said, every town has something to offer and worth exploring.
Something similar, not similar, but sort of in the same vein, I would say, called the Witch's Dungeon in Bristol. Cortland Hall.
Yes.
And
I always wanted to go. I've never been.
You know what's funny? I've gone there since the mid 90s, and he used to have it at his house in Bristol. And after all those years he had, the neighbors complained, so he moved it somewhere else. And then the town was giving him a problem about that. So now he has it in Southington, which to me is, well, actually, I'm not bad mouthing it because I like the place. It's just unfortunately the way they have it because of the pandemic. they're only allowing 3 people in at a time, and the lines are so long. A couple times I just went home because I've been there so many times, and I could basically do the whole tour myself. But it's a great place, and I go there. I try to go there at least once a year, and I've met so many great people there. Bela Lugosi Jr., Sarah Kaufman, or Karloff, Sarah Karloff. I mean, Boris Karloff star. And I also met Victoria Price there, who I've had on my show before. She is such a great person. Sarah's going to be on the show as well, Sarah Karloff. But Victoria Price, Vincent Price's daughter, we spoke for probably about 2 hours, just going on and on about different stories. And her father, I did not realize what a Renaissance man that guy was. I mean, he was an artist, actor, author, cook. I mean, there's so many different things. But yeah, no, people who you definitely check it out, because I'm sure you know the story. His great uncle was an American werewolf in London. I can't remember his first name. His last name was Hall, and so he grew up in the whole movie set, and he loves movies. So he does a lot of makeup, and he does a recreation of all the creatures. So when you go in there, you see Bela Lugosi as Dracula, you see a creature from the Black Lagoon, you see Vincent Price as Dr. Phibes, you see the Fly. It's great. And they have a lot of movie memorabilia there, stuff from E.T., Close Encounters, and a lot of the 80s or 50s horror movies too. So yeah, it's a great place to check out.
I've heard of it. I've always wanted to go, and maybe hopefully this Halloween I'll get to go.
Yeah, well, like I said, I'll definitely remind you. I'll go with you, because I try to go at least once a year. Yep.
Sounds like a plan.
Rich.
We have to go on the grand tour of Connecticut. I love this. There's like so many different places I want to check out. Speaking of movies, another good segue is movies filmed in Connecticut. You had that recently on one of your posts.
Yeah,
and we're talking about. I can say, I know we mentioned Elmwood Productions. They film a lot of movies in Connecticut. I remember the Jane Fonda, Robert De Niro movie that came out in the 90s. I can't remember the name of that.
That was in Meriden, I believe, right?
No, that was another one. That was one where he was a truck driver. There was one they filmed in Waterbury. He and Jane Fonda. I would have to look it up. But there was another one he filmed in Meriden. They did, actually they went to Hubbard Park, the tower, and they filmed the scene there. He was I want to say a Vietnam vet. I never saw it. Jackknife was the name of that movie, Jackknife. But there's a lot of great movies in Waterbury. And there's also one I saw recently that was based on the, what's it called? The Yankee Peddler Inn in Torrington. It's called The Innkeepers.
Yes. The Innkeepers?
Yes. That's a great movie. I love that. Tell our viewers what the history of the Yankee Peddler Inn is.
It's a really great old inn. It takes up most of downtown Torrington, and like all great inns, it's haunted. So it's awaiting restoration, unfortunately. So it's not open right now. I'm hoping that it will be fixed up, and maybe a year or so will be opened up to the public again. And it has one of the coolest subterranean taverns I've ever been to, and I'm looking forward for that to be restored to its former glory, because it's a great place. But it's been around since the 1800s, certainly.
I was in there once, years and years ago. I can't remember when. I think it was around that time. The Innkeepers, I think it was right before it closed. I could be wrong on the timing, but I did have a chance to walk through there. And I know what you're talking about. But yeah, it's such a great story, and I would love it even if they just open it up for tours. I think they would.
I got photos before it closed.
Yeah. I remember seeing like pictures of George Carlin in there, because it was great, because it's right across the street from the Warner Theater. So a lot of the big guests would just stay there for the night. And
so I look forward to it being reopened.
Right. Well, I'm glad that we talked about that, because I did not realize that was actually a thing that's going on. And sticking in the Torrington area, there's so many great restaurants. And I know that a lot of your friends post things in the Torrington area. And one I want to give a shout out to is Toothpick. I love that place.
It's a good place. It's fun.
I know the owners. They're a great place. The service is great. Food is, so if you're looking for not so expensive lunch or dinner, go there, and you won't be disappointed. Another one, it was funny. It's not in Torrington, but it was in Waterbury. Somebody wrote this on there. It was the Clam Diggers. I used to go there. Don't live. I used to live in Waterbury. I don't live there anymore, but I used to go there all the time. And another one, as I mentioned before, I almost forgot about that place. And I said, I got to take a ride back to Waterbury. I used to go there all the time.
if I could mention one more place in Torrington,
Oh yeah, definitely.
we all celebrate the fact that Connecticut has the best pizza. Well, we also have some of the best grinders, if you're into grinders.
Yes.
And my favorite grinders come from Alfredo's.
Yes.
I just, it's a thing. They're amazing. They are just the best and the freshest. I mean, they make an amazing grinder. My wife actually used to work at an Italian deli, so like this is religion to her. and I got her a grinder. She goes, "This is as good as the ones I used to make." So yeah, it's definitely authentic. They're actually the people who own it are actually real Italians from Italy. So it's kind of
I know Alfredo well. I know he sort of took a break from the business. Now his sisters took over, so he's doing real estate now. So he's not the face of he still owns the building, still owns the business, but his sisters run the place. But yeah, it's I go there all the time for lunch. I almost forgot about that. Carbone's is another good one in Torrington. I'm not sure if you've ever been there.
Not in a long time. I do like it though.
Let's just say one time you need a hand truck if you want to get the full grinder, full sub. It's that big. I couldn't believe when I bought something for my friends at work, and I brought in there like, where the hell did you go? You said you wanted the large. I didn't know it was that big. It's
a beautiful thing.
A lot of meat.
There are a lot of good sub places, but yeah, I would agree. In that area, Alfredo's. In that area alone, there's so much culture. You have the what is it? Oh, I always get this wrong. Is it 5 Points?
No, you got right. 5 Points Gallery is excellent.
Yep. And then it used to be
changing at least monthly.
Yes. And then Newelke Gallery, which they used to have, I know we're going to talk about him in a second, but he used to run the poetry open mic. And
yep.
Is that, what was it called? Newelke Gallery?
Yep.
Okay. So
the Speakeasy Poetry.
That's it. Thank you. I knew there was a different name to it, but I performed there during Nutmeg Junction, and I went there on their open mic night. I love that place. But the owner of that, John Newelke, moved down the street in the old Howard's building.
Yes.
So let's talk about that.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's an old bookstore that he's restored, and it's just one of the liveliest bookstores in the state. It's independent. He's got everything you could possibly want, a bunch of books you've never heard of that you do want. He's kind of a neat figure. He's wonderful to talk to. He's a poet himself, and he performs, and he's amazing to talk to. He's just kind of a man about town in Torrington, well known, well liked, and I think, in my opinion, every good town deserves a bookstore. Yes. And they've kind of gone away. That's why I think it's important to support things that are unique and local. You want your town to have a good place that makes grinders. You want your town to have a bookstore. You want your town to have local independent businesses. You don't want everywhere to be Walmarts and Targets and Olive Gardens. You want to keep local flavor, because it's unlike anything you'll ever have, and it's usually so much better than what you're used to. At least that's what I believe.
Well, I believe the same thing, and it's funny you say it, because several years ago I met John Grisham, and he was at a local bookstore. I want to say in the not Derby area, the old Saybrook area. I can't remember the name of it right now. They'll come to me, but there's a local bookstore. It's a great bookstore, and they have a lot of interesting guests there. But he was doing a tour, a book signing of his latest book on all the local bookstores in the area. And what he would do there, he would have a talk, but he would have local authors from each town also on the panel. So, and I love the fact he did that. He goes, and he said exactly the same thing you just said. He goes, local bookstores is the most important thing. I think every town should have one, and it's the culture. Let's keep it alive. He goes, the big bookstores are good, and I appreciate people who use that too. But he goes, we got to keep things like this going, and I appreciate everybody from coming here. So his whole book signing tour was every local bookstore they had around the U.S.
Good for him for doing that.
Yeah. And I wish I could remember the name of it, because it sort of just, when we were talking about that, it popped into my head. It was several years ago I went to, but I'll put it in the notes when this interview gets aired.
Wasn't R.J. Julia's?
Yes, R.J. Julia. That's it. Thank you.
They have a branch in Middletown as well. It's a great bookstore. Very posh, very nice.
Yeah, and the people are
coffee,
great.
the works.
Yes, see, that's what I love. I love just going to a bookstore, grabbing a tea, and that's actually where I do a lot of my research for interviews. And it's a great place to spend a day. Like RJ Julia's, and there's also some others. Speaking of different places in here, there's a place called Birdhouse that's in it's like in the Manchester area. That's another great place. And then Rebel Dog, they're spread all over the place now. Rebel Dog's one in Plainville. You have one in Farmington, and now one in Hartford. It's another great coffee / tea house.
Here's another thing that I like. If you're going to talk about RJ Julia's in Middletown, next to it is Amato's, which is an amazing toy and hobby store, which I bring my kids to every time we go to Middletown. Wherever you're into, they have. Sure, they've got toys for little kids, and that's fine, God bless. But if you're into trains, that's the place to go. If you play D&D, they have everything you need. Board games is all over the place. It's one of my favorite places.
I'm gonna have to check. I know exactly what you're talking about. That would definitely interest me. It's one of those things where you drive by, so I gotta stop there one day. And one of these days I just have to stop and actually walk in there. But
that's the thing, if you don't mind me saying, it's like every town needs to be walked. Otherwise, you'll miss something. There's so many great towns. Danbury is the downtown of Danbury is actually kind of like a museum because they have plaques every like 20 feet telling you something you should know about the town. So it's kind of cool. And certain towns do that as well. New Haven has posters up about history in New Haven. So it's like a virtual museum itself. And I wish every town did that.
Yeah, no, me too. You know, that's why I love the bike trails, because they have it going through the New Haven, Northampton bike trail. I used to start in Cheshire, take my bike and go all the way through New Haven. Now I'll just do more walking. But as I'm walking, they have that every 20 so feet, and you see the history. And one example is that I didn't realize until I stopped there was that I want to say it was in the closer to New Haven area, but there's an area where Amistad went through.
Oh, wow. Ship. Yeah. That's an amazing movie. I'm not sure how much was filmed in Connecticut, but a lot of it happened here, like at our old state house. If you visit our state house, they'll have portraits of the Amistad people who fought for their freedom. Yeah, it's inspiring and incredible.
I do know some of it was filmed in Mystic because a friend of mine was an extra in that movie. And he has pictures of it. So, and I know when I was talking to him, and he said it was in Mystic. They filmed part of it. So that I don't know how much of it was. Another movie that was filmed in Connecticut, part of it anyway, was in Naugatuck, the Tom Cruise version of War of the Worlds.
Yep. A Mystic Pizza. Oh, I think that was actually filmed in Stonington, though. Not actually Mystic. Someone said that.
It's funny because as I go to Mystic on a somewhat regular basis, and I stopped at Mystic Pizza one time, and they love the notoriety. It's still they're still notorious for that. Sure. They live it up, and they should. They have the movie playing in the background, all the posters, and as you said, it really wasn't filmed there, but it was. They mentioned that there's a lot of history to Connecticut, and I love it.
Oh God, yes, yeah,
it is.
And here's what I love too is that we were talking about this off there, and you said you want one of your jobs is to highlight not only local talent, but local authors. And there's a lot of great authors in Connecticut. On this show, we interviewed several of them. And one of them, I want to give a shout out to. His name is J.L. Booth. He's having a book signing at the at Newelke's at Howard Building in April. So
tell me more about him. What did he write?
Go ahead, Wibo. Tell him.
Great book.
What's it called? Oh, good job.
Dark Vengeance. He was on the show probably about 2-3 weeks ago. He's from the Torrington area, and he has a very, very interesting, hard life. And a lot of his book, it's fiction, but he puts a lot of himself into these books. And he's starting to come out with series where it's different characters that are in several novels. And I think that one could be the John Nash series. I'm pretty sure he said. So yeah,
I started reading the book. Boy, it's a good book.
Thank you. I appreciate the shout out. I definitely have to pick it up then. Thank you. I appreciate a good recommendation.
Yeah. And I have a couple other people I have in mind too. I'm gonna send to you off the air that there's other authors that I'm in the middle of reading her book, and It's a memoir. It's very, very good and very engaging. It's unfortunately it's about her life suffering through domestic abuse, but how
That's
she
a
overcame it. And the name of the book is called Everything Will Be Okay. So I'm in the process of reading next. She's a local
Oh, I
author.
know that author. She's wonderful.
Yes.
She's I forget her name now, but she's amazing. She's pretty good. Do you
Merck.
know David Leff?
No, I don't.
Oh, I'm surprised. He used to read at the local gallery. He's the Collinsville Poet Laureate, and he's come out with some books. I'll send you a link.
Oh, please, yeah. No,
Yeah.
definitely love to have some of these people on the show because I
Oh,
know
great.
that.
Oh, he's a great warm poet. You would enjoy him. Yeah, he'd be a great guest for you.
Because as I mentioned, another great poet, Jack Sheedy, who I'm friends with, we had him on the show.
He's the best.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And I'm not sure if you know his story where he is retracing the trip that his father did years ago. So he's in the process of doing that right now. That's what he was on. He was promoting his latest book that came out of poetry, but we were also talking about that too. And I can't, my mind went blank on exactly what the story was, but I know his father did this one trip and he's retracing that whole route. You might know more about that than I do.
I've heard that story. I saw him once at the local gallery again, where he was reading from one of his books, and he survived the flood of 1955.
Yes.
And he talks about seeing a house being knocked off its foundation and floating away and going past his house, and they reach out and rescue the people on the second floor or something like that. And to hear him, he's a wonderful speaker, wonderful poet, and anything he reads or talks about is warm and wonderful. It really has a talent for that. So definitely, he's worth seeing him whenever he performs.
Is that open mic back running now? So I know it stopped for a while because of COVID. The open mic where they have the poets and the guitarists.
Not up yet, but hopefully soon.
Okay, good. We'll definitely keep our viewers updated on that because I used to. I think they had it once a month or twice a month, and I used to go there as many times as I could just to check, even if I didn't do anything, just to check out the local talent and enjoy the show.
So many great poets, sure.
So we talking for a while. Is there anything that I know there's so many things in Connecticut that we haven't discussed yet, but what are you looking forward to be doing with this website? Are you going to try to make it big? Do you only have it on Facebook right now? Are you going to expand it to Instagram, Twitter, and some of the other platforms?
Well, I like it on Facebook because I feel it's more interactive. It works toward more of being a forum as well, where people can interact and talk. I don't think Twitter and Instagram are as good as the vision that I have. I was more looking to make a community where people already are. Though there are some very good people on TikTok, there are some very good people on Instagram who do that. It seems like the message is like they're giving their message, which is great. God bless, they're doing a great job. But what I was looking more to do is create a community where everyone contributed and saw everyone else at the same time. So it wasn't just me, but it was everyone contributing. I may expand someday, but I kind of like where this is going. We're getting good numbers. We're over 20,000. Some posts have gone up to 350,000 by being shared. And I think we're getting the message out that local needs to be supported. And there's a lot of wonderful local things that are going on. We're going in the direction that I hope to go in, and it just seems to be growing and getting better, and I'm very pleased. This has been a dream come true for me.
How long have you had this site up?
About a little less than 5 years.
Okay.
So it's grown. So like one of the reasons I created this group was I lost a favorite museum of mine. It was called the Golden Age of Trucking in Middlebury, and it was open for about 2 years, and it was a fantastic museum dedicated to the history of trucks, wonderful for families, wonderful for children, and it just didn't get the kind of visitation it needed to stay open. and I swore I wouldn't be helpless next time. If something ran into trouble, I would be able to get the word out. And we're getting to the point where, yeah, we can get the word out and save things, and try to encourage people to shop local, to support local.
Yeah, local.
And want to get to the point where we can actually do more work supporting local musicians and local authors. And hopefully we'll see that day soon.
Yeah. Well, I love what you're doing. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
And we definitely have to get together. We'll do a
Yes.
tour of Connecticut.
Yes.
I would definitely love you to be a part of the Rich and Wibo live local artist show.
I would enjoy that very much.
Well,
thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was so great to finally have you on the show. Like I said, I've wanted you on the show for a long time, and I could probably go on for another 3-4 hours just talking about all the great times and all the great things I've seen in Connecticut. But that wraps up the list.
Then.
Yes, exactly. This is part 1 of the
sounds
5.
good. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
That wraps up the latest episode of Rich and Wibo present the local art show. A huge thanks goes out to Eric Hahn for creating my new favorite site, which highlights all the best Connecticut has to offer. So go on Facebook right now and hit like for Connecticut Wonderful page to find new favorites or just revisit an old one. It has something for everyone. And like I said before, be sure to share your pictures and stories of some of your favorite Connecticut memories. And I would also like to thank you, the viewer, for tuning in every week. Enjoy your day, everyone.
From the frenetic mind of author Rich Sear. 5 terrifying short stories, now available in one collection. Confessions of a Frenetic Mind. 5 tales of blood-curdling terror, available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
All of a sudden I hear, brim, brim.
What's a diaphragm again?
Ha! We caught one.
They're supposed to be weird.
Oh, yeah, no. If you say so.
I've always wanted to be in a movie.
Around for all the